I think there's no question that some of the damaging rhetoric that we saw during the prior administration, blaming, calling COVID, the Wuhan virus or other things.
Concern is growing this morning over an outbreak of a new SARS-like virus in China. At least 6 people have died from the Wuhan coronavirus. The Wuhan coronavirus.
The 34-year-old ophthalmologist diagnosed Saturday with the Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
What more can you tell us about the similarities or differences between SARS and the Wuhan coronavirus?
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus in China.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
Well, if that's not telling, I don't know what is. Welcome to the State of Dissidents podcast. I am BC. I'm your radical libertarian commentator. And, today we're calling out the double standard. That was the whole idea behind what I want to do. I want to create dialogue, and I want to have logical conversations about what's not actually being said in our corporate news. It's blatantly obvious at this point that they are just another branch of the establishment. This cathedral that is held up as if it is sacred, but it's no more than symbology at this point. As we see the press secretary blaming everything from the border crisis to the mass shootings all over the country or over the country in the recent days, it's all being blamed on the prior administration. Trump rightfully called it the China virus or the Wuhan virus, and it's not anything to do with the Chinese people or the people who live in Wuhan. Historically, when they name a virus, its geographical location is typically in the name because that's its point of origin. So he's not wrong to have called it this. It just so happens to be convenient in a political sense to attack them with this woke propaganda. At this point, if you can't discern the corporate narrative as propaganda, this may not be the podcast for you. But there is hope. There is a small handful of people who are still engaged in their own critical thinking. They are aspiring to have these conversations, and I myself particularly want to have these conversations on the regular platforms. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy seeing the new ideas of decentralized social media platforms, and competition is always healthy in a capitalist society, but I'm not ready to cede the territory yet. Up till this point, I haven't been banned off of anything as of yet. But that being said, this narrative is quite contradictory for multiple reasons. We see Trump being blamed for literally all of their shortcomings up to this point. Not given. It hasn't been that long of this presidency, but it has been disastrous up to this point. The crisis at the border is cited as being 700% higher than the highest points in Trump's administration. At the border, specifically, Democrats were in lockstep when it came to this whole idea that Trump was keeping kids in cages. There's so much nuance to the border crisis and immigration that just a humanitarian outlook is not a logical explanation for what they are doing. They literally reopened the same facilities plus erected other facilities that are temporary, and their Project Veritas just released the videos and the photos of these facilities, and people are packed on top of each other with prison-like quarters, and they're covering up with aluminum foil blankets or whatever they are. And it during a pandemic, they are swinging this narrative as if it's all Trump's fault, and not to mention we have the pandemic, but yet here these people are literally laying on top of each other like sardines. Now, as for the rhetoric towards the hate in our country, I find it incredibly ironic that anybody who doesn't stand in lockstep and bend the knee for the Democrats, they are considered extremely right-wing. They tar you with a far-right epithet, and that's what you are. And you are considered the racist. This is the narrative, okay? But this hate isn't arising. It's not even, they can't define hate crimes because we already have laws on the books for these things. And as far as my knowledge can tell me, there is no visible hate crime. Yes, I mean, he was obviously the man in Atlanta was obviously hateful. He openly admitted that he had a sex addiction and that's what drove him to this. Now, the immediate narrative was that he was a white supremacist and this was an Asian hate crime. Now, I'll get to the rhetoric of what whiteness is and white supremacy. These definitions are fluid. They change regularly. But they completely neglect the fact that there was two other people that were non Asians, and they died as well. It's like, how can you be claiming compassion for these hate motivated crimes, yet you're disregarding part of it because it doesn't suit your narrative? This is the double standard I'm worried about, because whiteness, as they call it, is considered to be a bad thing. Now, of course, anybody could say, oh, well, you're biased. You are white. This woke propaganda literally says, because I don't agree with their ideology, and I personally believe that we should be basing it on meritocracy and not identitarianism. So this literally means that I'm racist, because I won't bend the knee to the Democrats in lockstep and say I disavow myself for something that is completely out of my control, which is my skin color, right? We got so many people that say they disavow this whole woke ideology, but yet they still toe the party line in so much as the system is broken because of white people. This is all woke propaganda. There's no way around it. You can't disavow part of it, but then say this part suits me as well. That's not a coherent ideology. Not given. This is a free country. You're allowed to believe whatever you would like to believe, but it's not logically coherent. In this country, it is class warfare. They use the woke propaganda, all this nonsense about whiteness, to keep us divided. It's literally just because the majority percentage of this country is white people. That is why this propaganda sticks, is because of our history. But nobody stops to think about the actual critical race theory that is being espoused. Okay, case in point. As you've probably noticed, I am on this article here from The Root, a prominent leftist publication. Okay? Whiteness is a pandemic. Okay? Let's read a little. I don't have much to add here today that hasn't already been said. Whiteness is a public health crisis. Okay? It shortens life expectancies, it pollutes air, it constricts equilibrium, it devastates forests, it melts ice caps, it sparks and funds wars, it flattens dialects, it infests consciousness, and it kills people. Excuse me. White people and people who are not white, my mom included. There will be people who die in 2050 because of white supremacy-induced decisions from 1850. A line can and should be drawn from the actions of the white supremacist who walked into 3 Atlanta area massage parlors yesterday and allegedly killed 8 people, 6 of whom were of Asian descent. The relentless anti-Asian rhetoric pollinating national discourse over the past year. The former president and the party of the former president can and should be blamed for this and the sudden increase of racist violence against Asian Americans. The line doesn't stop there, though. It extends back 400 years and has tentacles clawing everywhere. White supremacy exists here in America, which is everywhere. Okay, so notice. They say that there was 8 people who tragically got murdered on this event, on this day. 6 of whom were of Asian descent. Now, why are we just completely disregarding the other 2 people? It's because they're white, right? But the rhetoric of the president and people calling it the Wuhan virus, which, as you've already seen, was being parroted all over the corporate news, right? So it's already the double standard you see here, right? But now we're disregarding some of the people who were involved in this crime. Some of the victims are being disregarded because they're white, right? But it's the rhetoric of the last administration that caused it. This is the racism that we should be looking out for. The whiteness is literally a pandemic. This is why I started doing this. Sure, I'm biased because I'm white. You're damn right I am. Because I have a daughter who has to grow up in this world. And it's now making its way, the critical race theory is making its way towards the public school system. I am confident in myself and her mother that we will be able to make it through this without a parasite leeching on her brain and making her believe that she's something less because her skin just so happens to be white. But that doesn't stop the fact that people aren't talking about it. There's a woman from Smith College. She worked at Smith College as a professor for many years, and she was completely oblivious, because she's a liberal. She was completely oblivious to the fact that critical race theory was infecting academia. Now, how anybody could be actively present in that kind of environment and not see it coming is beyond me. But she's got a lawsuit going, and she's trying to sue them for discrimination. And it's fairly simple. They were having outings and meetings, and they always made the white people disavow their race. And people are scared to speak out because of our history in this country. Some people who happen to be Caucasian feel like they shouldn't speak on race because of our history. Well, that makes no logically coherent sense. I will speak out because I know in my heart that I don't care who you are so long as you're a good person. But I will not sit back and be told that I'm racist just because of how I was born. I will speak out. I could be tarred as right wing. I am a libertarian, so I lean left and right depending on the situation. But I'm a radical libertarian, so if I was able to get my utopia, it would be liberty and freedom first and foremost. We had the civil rights movement for a reason. Dr. King himself said, content of character, not color of skin. This has all been thrown out the window. And it's literally only for the purpose of division. The woke are eating themselves. Teen Vogue just lost a 7-figure advertisement endorsement because the editorial staff that was coming in had a tweet from 10 years ago that was anti-Asian rhetoric. And they found it, and they called her out on it, and the advertiser said, whoa, hold on, we don't want no smoke. Exactly what they said. We are not getting involved in this, and they pulled it. So it's even collapsing on the woke. And the crazy part is, this anti-Asian, this crazy hatred towards Asians has been prevalent. There are literal systemic policies in universities to this day that are against the Asian minority community. And why? Because they took advantage of our capitalist free market system. They thrive in it because they hold the family sacred and they work hard. They're great business people. They thrive in this type of environment. But it's not about meritocracy. And now that they have some kind of narrative to spin for multiple reasons, it gets them the emotional response that they're looking for. It gives them the opportunity to capitalize on another victimhood. But to think even for a second that this isn't part of an agenda is beyond me. It's literally in the policy. Critical race theory literally stands against the 64 Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. California was trying to repeal their Civil Rights Act in their constitution for their state because they wanted to resegregate. Yet anybody who doesn't bend the knee is called racist because it provokes an emotional reaction, and most people just stop and they're frozen in their tracks because it's outlandish. People aren't just inherently racist because of their skin color. And this is the perfect example of why you can't just outright call them racist because they won't bend the knee. Let's read. Black mom sues school after she says biracial son received failing grade in sociology class for refusing to confess his white dominance. Okay, so this is part of the issue with just going out on a whim and saying somebody is white just because of the way they look. You can't discern that. Yeah, most of the time there are physical characteristics where you can ascertain what somebody's ethnicity or race is. But to make that the standard is literally hypocritical when you're avowing somebody as a racist. Okay, so let's read. A black mom is suing her biracial son's Nevada charter school after she claims he received a failing grade for refusing to link aspects of his identity to oppression and dominance in a sociology class. Gabrielle Clark and her son, William Clark, filed a suit in U.S. District Court of Nevada against public charter school Democracy Prep Agassi campus in Las Vegas on December 22nd, alleging a violation of constitutional free speech and due process rights. William Clark claims that in the class Sociology of Change taught by Catherine Bass, who is named as defendant in the suit, he was harassed and punished for refusing to attach derogatory labels to aspects of his identity. Clark, whose deceased father was white, is generally regarded as white by his peers, according to the complaint, and has green eyes and blondish hair. Excuse me. The far-right advocacy group International Organization for the Family, which has been tracking the case closely, reports that a U.S. District Court judge said at a February 26 temporary restraining order hearing, "I think William is likely to succeed on the merits of his compelled speech claims," saying that, quote, "defendants will have to find a way to justify the critical race theory curriculum under a strict scrutiny test," adding, quote, "that's a high bar to meet." In the class taught by Bass, a self-described white Irish American citizen, Clark was allegedly forced to reveal his race, gender, sexual, and religious identities and attach labels to the identities which the lawsuit claims violated his right to privacy. An instructional slide included in court documents displays dominant groups in American culture as white, male, middle upper class, heterosexual, and Protestant Christian, while, quote, everyone else is categorized as, quote, submissive. Labels like white are associated by Bass with privilege, while words like female and working class are associated with oppressive. This woke propaganda is not coherent. It's only going to force more polarization. And if you want my blatant, honest opinion, that's exactly what they want. Dr. King had a dream that his kids would not have to grow up in this kind of world. Where are we at when we disregard that dream completely? And now even minority and ethnic minorities and whatever the identity may be, so long as it's not white, even they are getting attacked. Asians have been persecuted for a long time in this country. We always hear this systemic racism. There is literal systemic racism in this country now against Asians in academia, in the universities, and now we have it just in regular charter schools. I'm sure there was it's like what happens with the biracial people in our country if they don't fit into a perfect little narrative box? They just get outright disregarded with the rest of the white people. There really has to be a sick perversion of all kinds of our history for this to culminate as the standard. Trump literally put an executive order towards the end of his presidency that made it, we already have the Civil Rights Act. This is illegal under our legislation as it sits. This should not even be allowed. But the first thing Biden did was undo everything Trump did, including banning the critical race theory. This is the problem with our system. We have historical racism in this country. But we have come such a long way from that it's no longer systemic, as in the context of what it used to be. It is now a class issue. The rich get rich and the poor get poor. And so long as you grab this identitarian narrative, then we can never address the actual racism that does exist in this country. And it's not the radical right-wingers or the alt-right that are the prominent racists in this country. The Democrats and leftists alike are in lockstep. It is all woke propaganda, and if you don't bend the knee, you get canceled and taken outright. Well, I could tell you for one, I'm not that guy. I'm inherently introverted, but I also have a daughter who has a future, or so I thought. I can tell you right now, I will try everything in my power to create a avenue of dialogue as to ascertain her future without it being parasitic in nature. That's what this is. This woke propaganda is parasitic. I see logical, critical thinking people who honestly believe that we have to do away with a class issue argument. They honestly believe that it is systemically racist country here in the United States, and that because the elites are white and the Democrats have historically been the racist party, that it is racism that is at fault. We do have historical racism in this country. That is without a doubt. But the real issue that we need to be fighting the establishment with the populist left and the populist right together to make any kind of dent in this is a class issue. We saw the largest transfer of wealth in human history last year. It is a class issue. They rerouted everybody to big box stores and online shopping. Because it doesn't matter who you are today. So long as you are in the lower class, you are a pleb. You are part of the proletariat. I'll leave it there. By all means, if you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, share with your friends on social media, and I'll catch you on the next one.